have made the progress we have made as a country because our citizens have entrusted successive governments to work for them and the common interest.
There are working families who are afraid of what lies ahead.
You guys are no great advocates of freedom of speech at all. And I shudder to think of the day when you would ever be in authority.
You're a disgrace. You're only in the bottom of the barrel now.
To make it even worse, you say you care about first-time buyers.
Housing crisis, health reform and rising to this climate challenge.
To week 3 of Reach PLC's new YouTube series called Dáil Talk, which, as you've guessed, is where we talk about the things that go on down the Dáil, all things political. But this week we've got a bit of a cross. We've got a bit of a hybrid show because we have got Showbiz has definitely come to the Dáil this week with the Ryan Tubridy story. It's one of those that keep on giving. So we're going to get a quick hello first before I do an introduction from the week's events from our Showbiz editor here with Reach, Sandra Mallon. Sandra, say hello.
Hello.
Okay, and Sandra will join us again in a minute. So there's only been one show in town again this week, folks, and I hope you don't mind us talking about it again because I think a lot of people enjoyed last week's show where we had a deep dive into the RTE scandal at this stage now, and it's broadening, it's widening. But it started off with Ryan Tubridy, the secret payments that were not on the books of 345,000. They were there somewhere, but they were well hidden. And since then, things have moved along in the past couple of days, really. I could go back a week to when we had our last chat, but we'll fast forward to over the weekend to say everybody was talking about it, the whole country was talking about it, and we all wanted to see where we were going to go next. And then all of a sudden this week, things picked up pace on Tuesday and Wednesday when the invites went out to Ryan Tubridy and Noel Kelly to appear before the Public Accounts Committee and the Media Committee, And then all of a sudden, we got a letter on Tuesday morning from Ryan Tubridy's solicitors confirming that he would offer himself to come before both committees. We then had another session of the Media Committee yesterday evening, which was Wednesday, and that was another blockbuster. It was box office, would have done huge ratings for RTE's News Now channel, that's for sure. And before that, the media we released a lot of the wider media. We released a lot of documents that went into detail about what's being called slush funds in RTE. 3 barter accounts, or 3 companies feeding into one barter account, which is the way RTE like to describe it. And there was 1.6 million euros spent on corporate hospitality, etc. Fast forward to the end of that meeting, and the Public Accounts Committee met in private on Thursday morning. And they announced that they are going to meet on Tuesday. And Ryan Tubridy, the man, the prince from Hamlet, he's going to be there on the day with Noel Kelly. Then Wednesday, he's up again next week before the Media Committee. And then those media executives, the RT executives who we've seen, 6 or 7 of them, chairpersons, they're all back in next Thursday. But in the meantime, we're going to have a quick look back at how we got on this week. And Sandra's going to join us now because it definitely went showbiz. It definitely went box office. And one of the main talking points of the week was Toy Show, the musical, and it was a debacle. So Sandra, if you'd like to take over there, what did we hear at the committee about Toy Show, the musical, and how unsuccessful it was?
Well, we heard from the Director of Strategy at RTE, Rory Coveney, talk about how it was a creative risk that RTE did take with Toy Show, the musical, but ultimately it ended up being not so much a commercial success. We finally got figures. I mean, for the last couple of months, a lot of people have been wondering how many tickets were sold, how much it cost to even put on the musical itself. And we discovered that the projection of what, I think it was over €3 million of what they were looking to take in from it. It made a huge loss of, around €2.2 million. And then it transpired as well that of all the tickets that they wanted to sell for the convention centre, it was found out that there was only 11,000 in the end, over 11,000 sold. And I think 9,000 of them were given out as complimentary tickets. So that was quite surprising. But then there was other bits as well during the committee meeting that we heard from Rory about how they actually are currently storing for €8,000 per year, the set. And they're still actually not quite sure what to do. He did confirm it's not coming back this year, obviously, but they're still kind of gung-ho on the fact that they're not quite sure what they're going to do with it, but they're still going to pay €8,000 per year just to store that set. So despite the actual director of strategy at RTE admitting that it wasn't a commercial success, he did think that maybe, if it did come back, they would move away from the commercial or from the convention centre in Dublin and go to a smaller area. But it's yet to be kind of seen.
And it had did you go yourself, Sandra?
I didn't, but I was there for the opening night, and Dee Forbes was there the opening night, and I did go up and doorstep her actually to see if she did want to chat or say a few words, and she declined. But she was there. She was there for a while in the front of the convention centre, greeting everybody that kind of came in, and there was a good few kind of. The opening night usually attracts an awful lot of RTE stars, which is why a lot of showbiz reporters would go to the opening nights of everything, the launches of stuff, because a lot of celebrities would be there. So it did attract. I remember there was a couple of people from RTE that were there in the queue, ready to get their picture taken for the red carpet.
And you didn't bother staying for the whole show. It wasn't your cup of tea.
I didn't. No, I had something else to go to, I think, at the time.
You always have something to go to, Sandra. Just moving on to some of the things maybe you would have liked to have gone to. Some of the other tickets and events. We heard last week about the sports as such, but this week they focused on showbiz and they focused on gigs, because we heard that they were bringing you to Robbie Williams, and with the great line from Brendan Griffin TD yesterday saying, "Let me entertain you." That's my version of a Kerry accent, lads. And so we had Robbie Williams tickets, we had Bruce Springsteen tickets, we had Phil Collins tickets. If you were a gig goer, you'd want to be a client of RTE because they seem to get all the best tickets for everywhere, don't they? Tell us a bit about where they were.
They do. Like, you understand it to a certain extent, a commercial department having to sort of wine and dine, potential clients or clients that do advertise big money with RTE. But at the same time, though, there was hundreds of thousands of euros spent on key prominent sporting events that die-hard fans would really want to be there for, but they didn't get a ticket. But if you were working for a particular company that advertised with RTE, well, surely there'll probably be an email circulated around to say that there's tickets going if you wanted to go into a particular sold-out concert with RTE. So I think that really does irk a lot of the public that, certain sporting events, I think, they get front row and center. And we're not talking about, I'm not fully privy to this, but being in the game and being in the industry, we're not really talking about standing tickets. Like we're talking about probably really good seats, center, front row seats kind of to these events. So yeah,
I'd say backstage passes the works. If you want to get up close and personal with Phil Collins or Bruce, you want to work in RTE. But that said, I don't think the ordinary hack's in RTE. I think it's important to point this out. Same across a lot of media companies. I don't think the ordinary people working on the ground ever really get the advantages of these perks, I suppose. As Robert Short said last week famously, he's a hard-working correspondent for years. He says that the only perk you get in RTE is the RTE guide, and you don't even get the Christmas one, which is the ones everybody wants. So the ordinary people on the ground, it seems that the ones above live a rarefied existence. The executives seem to be the ones.
This is the thing that has transpired an awful lot throughout this whole, throughout these revelations, is that RTE staff that are actually in the newsroom, that are doing groundbreaking journalism and really working hard. The Paul Reynolds, the Orla O'Donnells, the ones standing outside courthouses and Garda stations and arriving on scenes of murder, scenes of crime scenes. They don't come back to their desk to freebies. So the newsroom itself, the hard working staff, the journalists in the newsroom, do not get these perks and advantages. And it appeared that it looked like it was a commercial department that had so much money in a budget because they needed to bring in advertising, but they sort of just lost the run of themselves by the sounds of it, with an awful lot of things that they bought. And, did they need to buy, X number of tickets? Was there a need to do all these kind of things, these different events? I know the one thing as well is the talk about the 200 flip-flops that was bought for a summer party event. Was there a need for that? It's outrageous.
That was totally mad. That was mad, Sandra.
It's outrageous, some of the spending that goes on when RTE staff in the newsroom can barely get an overnight stay somewhere, when they're working on a job.
Sandra, how much is a pair of flip-flops in pennies, would you guess?
So I looked this up yesterday, and if you want the premium molded pair of flip-flops, it's €8. But if you really want the cheap flat pair of flip-flops, it's €1.30.
And how much did RTE spend for their clients on their top of the range flip-flops?
It €34, I think, was quoted in the invoices per flip-flop. There was no need to, go for a particular brand of flip-flops. It's all about their image, and we heard that as well with the membership as well to Soho House.
Tell us a bit about Soho House, because it sounds very, 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 very interesting. I
can confirm that I haven't been at Soho House, but I have looked it up. It looks very fancy, rooftop swimming pools and all the stuff. Yeah, it's very nice. But what we heard yesterday was very interesting. It was the quote was that there's expectations from UK clients, and it's all about the brand. So, meeting up with people in just a hotel over in London wasn't good enough. They had to be showing off. It looks like they had to be showing off with membership at a 5-star place, instead of just saying, well, we could meet at, some lovely hotel in the middle of London, but instead they have membership to somewhere. It really is all about the brand image.
Meanwhile, must add as well, it's been reported that the London correspondent at the time had no office, and she had to go and she had to film her reports from cafes, and someone even said she had to go into the bathroom of a cafe at the hotel at one stage to get a proper place to file. But anyway, I think that points towards the upper echelons of media companies. Sometimes they live a different existence to those on the ground. I'll just, seeing as it is politics, I will say that RTE staff up here, from Micheál Lahan to Paul Cunningham to David Murphy to Sandra Hurley, you see them when we go in at 9 in the morning. You'll be walking out the door in the evening at 9 at night, and they'll still be doing the 9 bulletins. So I don't think they have time to be going to all these gigs that generally start at 6 or 7 in the evening. So I'll just give a bit of kudos to the RTE staff, as we all know, work hard on the ground. Just going to move it on a little bit and start looking forward, because it really is the hottest ticket in town. I think next week is going to be Ryan Tubridy. He's coming into Leinster House. If you thought there were photographers there today to catch the board going in, and Kevin Backhurst going into the Department of Media, he's the incoming Director General of RTE, folks. Wait till you see next week, because the Public Accounts Committee, they're having a meeting on Tuesday. Just a small little point there. I don't think anyone on the hardworking investigative committee would mind me saying they normally have a meeting on Thursday. The media committee normally have a meeting on Wednesday. PAC have decided to have their one on Tuesday this week. So they're going to get the first bite of the cherry. So that's just a coincidence, of course, but we'll have that. And as one member there said today, that there might be a few people heading on holidays weeks after that. So they want to have a good session before they go. And I think they will. The PAC is a very, very, very important committee in Leinster House, folks. It is the standing committee, which means it's always there, obviously. It is TDs only. So there's no senators, there's no subcommittees or anything like that. And it's given the remit of looking at all the spending of the state, basically. The way that's normally done is there's a state accountant called the Comptroller and Auditor General. It's a big office. There's loads of them in it. Obviously, it's not just one guy. And they look at the spending of every department and every bit of government money, basically, that's handed out. RTE is a funny one. It is not included under the CNAG's remit. It should be, a lot of them arguing, but we've made, the government has made a special application here, and RTE have come in. They've been answering questions all week. And next week, it's the man himself. It's Ryan Tubridy and Noel Kelly. They have a lot of answers to give. They said in their solicitor's letter, and fair play to them, that they're going to be coming in because they believe the public needs some more information. So, Sandra, what do you think we're going to hear from Ryan Tubridy next week? What are the main outstanding issues that him and his agent Noel Kelly might be able to throw some light on? Is it on the fact maybe that it was consultancy fees that was described for his payments of 75,000?
I definitely think Noel is going to have to answer that, about how that conversation came about to labeling something as consultancy fees. At what point in the conversation did somebody say just write consultancy fees, and who said it? Or did Noel, Noel has a lot of RTE stars that are on his books still. So Noel is well used to dealing with RTE over the years, and he would have probably designed a rapport with RTE management as well, especially when he's just renewing contracts every single year with his top talent. So I think Noel will have a lot of questions to answer for about how he dealt with the talent. I mean, was there an air of complacency because it was just kind of assumed, oh, he'll get another contract, Was there an air of that kind of? As for Ryan, I think dealing with Ryan over the last couple of years in the industry, I think Ryan really just wants to say everything. And Ryan is a fantastic talker, and he will go over his time probably being allowed, and he'll want to say and he'll want to answer all the questions that's going to be thrown at him, and he'll be well able to do it. It's obviously a nervous setting, but he'll be well able for it. But I think we are going to hear I think we're going to just hear more detail. It's good for the two of them to come in. We'll actually get to the bottom of it.
And I'll save you a seat up there next week, Sandra, inside in that room, because as I said, it's the hottest ticket in town. I don't even think the RTE commercial department, the barter accounts and slush funds will be able to get tickets for this next week. But I think that Ryan Tubridy still has questions to answer. The main one that he must confront the public and tell them about is how he reads the papers every morning. We hear him quoting the newspapers at the start of his show. And every year, as you know, one of the set pieces of RTE accounts is when they publish the earnings of their top earners, and people go woo and ooh and ah, and they see that people get paid up to $500,000. Ryan Tubridy read that the same as everybody else, and it said €445,000, and he was getting paid over €500,000. He is going to have to explain next week whether he saw that and decided it's nothing to do with me, even though it was wrong. And he says he's a journalist, so it was incorrect reporting. Or he could be damned if you do, damned if you don't in this one. He could say that he didn't notice what was going into his account and that he didn't know that he was getting paid over 500,000 a year. He didn't notice an extra 75 grand. And that could be very problematic, because you try selling that to somebody on the street, or you try selling that to the mammies of the nation who he still, I think he's losing them, but who he still trusts that he can lend an ear or bend an ear every morning. If you try and tell them, oh, I didn't know they had an extra 75 grand a year, that could be even more problematic than anything else at all. But that's the main questions I think he has to answer next week. Another issue I'd like to touch on is the secret car of the secret star. Now, I was there yesterday when this came up, and it drew gasps, it drew oohs and ahs, because we were not expecting this. It was a really casual question being asked by Timmy Dooley, Fianna Fáil senator from Clare. And we'd been given a hint last week by Adrian Lynch, the acting Deputy Director General and acting Editor-in-Chief. He's got a lot on his plate. He'll be delighted to see Kevin Backhurst come in next week to take over. But Mr. Lynch said that they were looking into cars. And then Alan Kelly at the Public Accounts Committee said, everyone's asking me about cars. And then over the weekend, we saw a couple of the Sunday papers give a list of brand ambassadors who were getting free cars. And we thought, is it okay? Is it not okay? What we didn't think was that a staff member would be getting a car. And there was drop your pen time yesterday when it was revealed that a star in there has had the loan of a free car. Now, that's a gift by any other description in my mind anyway, and that he'd had it for 5 years. And then just as we were heading for a break, we're only about 3 hours in at this stage, Timmy Dooley threw in another little question. He goes, just wondering, by the way, when did this star hand this back? And there was 3 second silence, and we heard yesterday, which was Tuesday. So that was shocking. So it's completely against the guidelines to accept a gift like that. We don't know anything about the benefits in kind, tax payments, etc. And finally, on this point, just as the meeting was finishing last night at around 7:15, it was brought up again by Senator Eugene Murphy. And he asked, are you sure that there's nobody else that has these funny car arrangements where they're getting a loan of a free car, which is a gift. And we were told it's possible that there's 1,800 people inside in the station. There's going to be a trawl. So, Sandra, I know you've been at the coalface in this story because there's rumours are swirling around Leinster House, and I can imagine in the entertainment world as well of who is this secret star who's got the secret car. We don't want you to name any names, but can you just tell me a little about what the last 24 hours has been like on that front?
It's just been full of speculation. The particular star is well known to us, and I suppose they haven't come out and said anything just yet. But yeah, it's it'll come as a surprise. You know, they're a very popular figure, and one I would have dealt with loads over the years and enjoyed talking to as well over the years. So I think it's best though for them to just come out and just say it, because it's better for them to just be able to control it and give their own statement themselves. And hopefully that will be sooner rather than later. It's better to do that than to be actually, you know, uncovered, revealed by newspapers. You know, and this particular person would have been just, you know, great with the public over the last number of years. So they know they have to do the right thing. They should do it they should just come out and say it, you know.
Yeah, it will come out. That's actually a quote from Adrian Lynch.
But it's better for them to come out with a statement. It's better for them to just come out and say it themselves rather than the likes of the media just revealing it and uncovering it themselves.
Yeah, well, it'll be a process of elimination as well, because privately we've started asking people and they're saying, no, it's not me, and everyone. Once that starts, everyone's going to be keen to say, well, it's not me.
It's not nice to be the subject of such particular gossip as well, and everybody asking questions within their own organization of, is it you, is it you, is it you? Very much like, I'm a celeb, Bush took a trial, it's not you going around. So, but we have had a few people come out and very, you know, kindly just clarified, it's not me, it's not me. And this one particular one has decided to just remain very silent at the moment.
Well, it's very possible in the middle of Thursday afternoon he might choose to break his silence even while we're filming this show. But I'm going to move on to something else that we've got across in politics and showbiz again over the past couple of weeks. This is a story myself and yourself are working on, Sandra. It's to do with Dave Fanning and his, I'll call them ill-advised comments. Some people were very hurt by them. He basically was very, very honest in his commentary on Christy Dignam, the much-loved late great lead singer of Aslan, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Fanning, just to give people a little bit of background, is everyone knows he's the veteran DJ of RTE. I won't say how old he is, but he's there since, we'll say, the early 80s. It would be nice to him, possibly before that. And he came on and he just said, I don't know if you want to repeat them, he said some, I'd say that could be very hurtful to the family of Christy Dignam. He was on at the time when we were looking at eulogies from the Taoiseach, who mentioned it, and the Taoiseach. The president had a very long statement. I clocked it at over 500 words. So the country was in mourning, and we have a tradition in this country where you don't speak ill of the dead. And he seemed to go a little bit OTT on this. There were over 40 complaints eventually to RTE on this. They're still out there. I have another development now that happened yesterday, but I'll just ask you first, Sandra, what did you think of his comments? Were they a bit crass, or were they just too honest, or did he go over the line?
I think it was a bit too soon for what he said. And I think in respect to them, when he came out and he listened back to how he came across, I don't think he realized the tone of what he was saying. You know, I think, like he would have said himself, that if he was in the room with Christy, they would have discussed Christy's early days. But I just think it was just the wrong time to be so honest on his thoughts on 24 hours after his passing. Instead of just celebrating, how he had changed the landscape in the music industry and stuff like that, he decided to just go one step further and talk about his early days. There was no need. He knows himself as well. There's probably no need to be saying, he had seen better frontmen as well. But I think it's when he had listened back to the tone of how he came across, he didn't mean to sound so harsh in a way. I didn't think his tribute was something that, it was just the wrong timing for that kind of a tribute, myself personally, when I had heard it.
Yeah, well, I think I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I think it was a terrible mistake. It was a royal cock-up. You can change the word, another CK word there if you want. But he's supposed to be constant professional. He's at this game longer than you or I, Sandra. He's probably at it, our experience combined. Plus then, he should know well when he's on live radio saying something like that, whether the person is living or dead. I think he just went a little bit too far. He did apologise, but it took him 4 or 5 days. And I think it took a story or two from ourselves in the paper and other papers pointing out that, people aren't happy here. We've had 40 complaints into RTE in the news again in politics. It's just a coincidence, folks. The good news is that a couple of people are dropping their complaints. So there's a Dáil, I became aware of the story because a Dáil staffer who works for one of the party leaders up here, a good dub himself, felt aggrieved and complained. And Tuesday, he showed me a letter that he had got from the producer of the Claire Byrne show, where it was a page and a half, I suppose, when he printed it out. And he's apologised, the producer, on behalf of the Claire Byrne show. The Claire Byrne herself apologised on air. Dave Fanning, obviously, we know, apologised the week before last, just gone. So I think it will go away, but it's down as a black mark on Mr. Fanning's media professionalism on that. I'd like to move along now. We're going back to Tubridy in a way because it's linked, but we have to have our funny moment of the week, and it's not all doom and gloom up in the Dáil, even if you are down in the dungeons with the Public Accounts Committee for 5.5 hours at a time. That's my life these days. But there was a survey covered in our paper today about search terms on the internet when it comes to how to avoid paying your TV license. And there's been a surge in that lately because obviously the RTE story. And it's just a coincidence. And we've heard anecdotes in the past and we've heard stories and heard the odd joke, but you'll never guess what county came top of the list. It was Cavan. Is that strange, Sandra? How do you feel about Cavan? Are they the wiliest county in the country, that they're ahead of the game, or are they very, very good with money, shall we say?
Cavan people are wonderful people. And if that's what the survey has revealed, then that's what the survey has revealed. But yeah, it's a funny survey, though. It was interesting that Cavan came out on top. I think, though, Dublin was included in that survey as well, were they not?
Dublin was third. Yeah, we'll give them that, yeah. But that's skewed by the fact that I think Dublin is more RTE-centric. I do think Dublin is a bit more obsessed when it comes to RTE. They're probably, people who work there and live there and all that. So, but I think the Cavan men and women, obviously, they know they know the value of a euro, shall we say? We'll put it that way. Yeah. So that was our fun story of the week. It's related to RTE again. Folks, thanks very much for joining us. We had a special edition this week. I thought it was nice to see our showbiz hack, Sandra, because it was definitely a box office week again here. Come back to us next week for the 4th edition of Dáil Talk. We might have Sandra on for a small spot again, yes. Don't worry, Sandra. We might have you on for a regular spot even. We'll work on that one. But next week will be our 4th, and it will be our final regular show of the season because the Dáil goes into recess. But I can tell you that politics will not sleep during the summer. I think this RTE story is going to go on and on and on right into the new season, basically the new showbiz season in September and the new Dáil and politics season. So hope to see you all very soon. And thanks very much for joining us. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Sandra.
Goodbye.
Bye all. Bye.